So I'm just going to take you through my day-to-day morning routine. So what I will do first thing in the morning is weigh in. So this is what I'll do every day. I'll get up, go to the toilet, and then I'll weigh in, and then I'll pop that on my Instagram, just for me to look back at over time. And then the next thing that I'll do is I'll come upstairs and I will rehydrate. So I'll make sure that I'm filling my water bottle all the way up, so I've got my first 2 litres in, and I'll try and get that down me within the first couple of hours of the morning. Next thing I'll do is I'll make myself a coffee. So every morning I'll have a decaf coffee. At the minute my only caffeine is my pre-workout stimulant, so decaf coffee in the morning. And while that is doing its thing, while it's making, I will do the to-do list on my whiteboard that I do every morning. So just a few things to note down, a few of the main things that I've got to get done on that given day. So I'll jot those down and I'll work my way through those through the morning and through the rest of the day. And then I will make my first meal. So the cream of rice is already prepared. I make it the night before, so I just have to make the whey protein and pour that on top. If you watched the last video, you'll have seen that meal anyway. Then what I'll do is I'll sit down and I will look at my Oura Ring data. So I'll check my my sleep from the night before. I'll check what it says my readiness is. I'll check my activity levels from the day before, and then I will jot it all down into my coaching sheets, which I use for my clients, but I also have for myself, just to track my own progress and my own data. Then while I'm eating meal one, I'll choose something to watch on YouTube, so I can just chill out for the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the morning while I'm eating before I get started with check-ins. And then I will crack through the initial morning check-ins between meal one and meal two. And then you find me now about to start meal two. So this is the start of the video. If there is sort of anything else that I think of throughout the rest of the video, I will explain, but that is pretty much what I do every single morning. You'll have seen on the to-do list what I've got planned today. So it is my upper pull dominant session, which I'll run you through. And I'm also going to take one of my clients, Slater, through some posing. So he's currently 16 and 17 weeks out. So every Saturday at the minute, I'm just popping round to his on the way to training and just running through some posing. So I'll take you along with that as well. So yeah, enjoy the video, guys, and I will catch you later on. So I'm currently on the way to Slater's now. So like I was saying at the start of the video, basically Slater is competing in 16 weeks in the BNBF and 17 weeks in the UKDFBA. So we've still got plenty of time, but it's good to make sure that posing is nailed early doors. It's harder to tell right now. He is lean, but he's not obviously anywhere near show lean, so it's very hard to see how every pose is going to look, and some of them look a lot better than others. For example, like the quarter turns, when you're not lean, they just don't look good, but you know, he's getting used to the movements, getting used to how it should feel, getting used to where to put his feet and things like that. So every Saturday I'm going there at the minute just to make sure that we're working on it and we're nailing it. So yeah, that's where I'm heading now, and then it's upper pull at Evo today, which I've trained at before on the channel. Joe's done a video filming us there. So I'm going to be basically eating at Slater's or eating just afterwards, and then setting off, meeting Reese to train for 12, and then the gym closes at 4. So that is the plan of action for the day. Sorry it's quite dark, I don't really know if I can change that, but I am driving, so I shouldn't really be looking over there. I should be looking at the road. So I'll catch you in a bit. Right, let's go. Let's do what we did last time. So just go through a standard round, mate, like you sent me on WhatsApp. The quarter turns are looking way better, by the way. Yeah, I can tell straight away that it's getting a lot tighter around here. I think part of it is obviously losing body fat, but I think also part of it is yeah, we'll just start with the pose and then breathing out and things like that.
Right, so
cool, quarter turns, right. Even if you have to do little things like that, so if you find it easy to open up like that, you might just have to hit it like that and then
almost bring your hands there.
And then almost bring them in and hit it. Like for me, that obviously, like I'll say, I'm like, oh, grab your boxes, because that's how I hit it easier. Yeah. But if you feel like that feels easier, then you could just sort of try and keep it there and just go bang.
Yeah,
go into it.
I can just see, like, open it straight up from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it's just a case of keeping those hips back. We'll get it, mate. All these things they'll get down on. Right. Okay, cool. So side, chest. Don't worry too much about that for now, because if you try and contract your glute, like, you're not going to see that now. Your glute's not in. If you try and contract your hamstring, like I said last time, it's not going to hang. Yeah, so try and try and relax that hamstring. That's why I say, like, think lower body up, think from the ground up. So always do your feet, then your knee, then your hip, then your elbow. Like, it's otherwise it's like shit. There's so much to think about. If you kind of have an order to do it, it'll just become like da 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 bang, and you've done it in a second when it feels like so much. Yeah, almost like driving. You know, think, oh shit. But once you've got it, it's like you all do it in one.
You press that around it. It's like, how the hell am I ever going to get this?
Yeah, exactly. Then we can really push it in. So like, what you'll see what I do is I almost go here and then I drag it across. I don't like start there and then try and push it against it, because you can't. Yeah, you're almost like starting here and then dragging it against it.
And you got to keep it together.
Yeah, and really pushing it against it. Yeah, it's hard.
I think I keep on
almost, you know when you do an adductor?
Yeah.
That's how this left leg feels right now.
Okay.
My adductor is on, because I'm pushing it right in. Yeah? So set that up, sit into it, then you can think about bringing your foot tiny bit back and almost going onto your calf. Like. If you can hit it like that, but breathe out as much as you can and twist still, because if you look at your upper body, you're very narrow, yeah. So the goal again, like I said, isn't just the tricep. So even though the pose is side tricep, they're not going to be looking at your tricep, they're going to be looking at the shape and everything, So I'd rather it be that your tricep doesn't look as good, but your shape looks nicer, because that is the whole pose, yeah? I've already polished off my crumpets, but I do have the cream of rice left to consume. I am in a service station currently, sat in the car park. This is what I tend to do on the Saturday, so I'll do the posing and then come to services. This is about 25 minutes from the gym, so I'll get this down, and then during that time it should all digest pretty well, ready to get going. I usually like about half an hour between my pre-workout meal and getting training. I know some people do like to leave it longer, but the pre-workout meal that I have at the minute, it's not that high volume, and I do tend to work pretty well eating relatively close to training. So I'll get this down and then we'll get off for the pull session. So guys, let's run through this upper pull session. So my split currently consists of 2 upper sessions, one of them being push dominant and one of them being pull dominant. So basically what that means is that on one day I will do the majority of the movements as pull, but I do have 1 push movement, or 2 if you include this lateral, and on the other day I do the majority of push movements, but I have 1 pull, which is actually a row. So that's kind of how it works. So this session is the upper pull session, where I have 1 press, which you'll see in a minute, but I do still start on a lateral raise. I actually train side delts on all of my 4 sessions. So I hit them first in this session to get the shoulder joint nice and warm, to basically get prepared for the flat bench, which is coming next, but also just to get my shoulder joints warm for all of the pulling as well, just to try and literally get all the musculature around the shoulders in a position where they're going to be able to get as much out of the session as possible, but also being able to then benefit from hitting the side delts when I'm fresh. So that's why I'll always hit a lateral first on both upper sessions, just 2 sets, top set, and then I back off with a rest pause. Then I went on to flat bench, so currently trying to do quite a low rep first set, sort of between 2 and 5 reps. Unfortunately it was 2 this session, so this is 145. The bench is just really hard, and I'm not used to it because the bench that we had in the lockdown in the shed was quite soft, so I could really lock my scapula back and down into it, and I had that cushion, whereas with this bench it's pretty solid. It's almost like laying on the floor, so it's quite hard to feel like I'm locking my scapula in well. It just almost feels like I'm pressing on the floor. So it's a little bit tough for that reason. So I was a bit disappointed with both sets, to be fair. 145 for 2, and then this was 127.5 for 7. So I was 2.5 kilos up on both sets and lost a rep on both, which is frustrating because I've been progressing this really well. But the main reason is that I just need to get back into my groove and get used to this bench rather than the previous bench. But I am still enjoying flat bench, and I will be keeping it in for now, for the time being, because I think it's benefited my other pressing quite a lot. So then I went on to the pull work. So now we're going to the pull work. So single arm pull down here. So this is a Life Fitness version of the hammer strength supinated pull down. Very similar machines. I quite like this because it's more of a neutral grip than a supinated grip. Really thinking to drive my elbow down towards my hip. I'm not thinking back, I'm thinking down, and I'm also shifting my hips back slightly to create a slightly better torso angle to favour the lats. And the reason that we do this movement first is because it's so hard to get it fully short. So when the lat's fresh at the start of the session, it makes sense to prioritise a movement which is harder in the shortened position. So I do 2 sets there. Always do the weak side first on any of my unilateral work, match it on the stronger side. Then we go on to the Panatta T-bar row, which is a really, really nice machine. I like to have my feet quite close to the machine. I just feel like I'm locked in more secure. In the past when I've done this, I've stood a bit too far back, and it's led to me almost standing a little bit too upright. So this was 3 plates and a 2.5 kilos per side, and 8 and 1 I believe I got, which is the same reps as last time but with an extra 2.5 kilos a side. And I really enjoy this movement. I'm focusing on driving my scapula and my elbows back and trying to keep my elbows flared at almost like a 45-degree angle to my torso. So when you're training back, if you almost imagine where the elbow is lining up on your back is generally where you're aiming to train. So I'm trying to aim for sort of like the mid and upper back here. So it's not so high that I'm going to be isolating just like the rear delts and the upper traps, for example. It's more so going to be getting pretty much, let's say, the whole back. So we're going to be looking at getting some lat activation, some teres major activation, some rhomboid, some trap, some rear delt. That's sort of where I'm aiming for, basically to get the majority of that mid back, basically. So 2 sets there, as you saw. Then we go on to the single arm ISO row. I don't know why I'm saying we, because me and Reece don't even train together in this session, really. So I go on to the single arm ISO row. So again, Life Fitness version of a very similar machine that Hammer Strength do, the single arm ISO row. Reason I'm standing back behind the machine is to manipulate the resistance profile slightly. So as you'll see where the load is, the further away from the axis point, the heavier it is, because the moment arm is greater. So basically, if the weight is further away from the red axis point that you can see, it's like a red dot on the screen. If the weight is further away from there, it is going to be harder. As the weight comes up, and if it comes above that and over the top of it, obviously it's going to be easy because the weight is pushing, then almost actively helping me get the lat short. So that movement is actually harder in the lengthened range. So as the lats are fatigued later on in the session, it makes sense to have a movement where we are going to be taxing out the lengthened range more, but it's easier to get short. So that's why we have that in that position of the session. And again, 2 sets there as well. The first set I spend 2 seconds on the contraction, likewise with the single arm pull down actually, and then the second set is continuous. So then I go on to a cable pullover. So what I'm trying to do here is basically, again, get a little bit more out of the lats, doing it in a different fashion. I don't have a pullover in my other session, and I do feel like a pullover does help with the lats from the front, especially in terms of lat width. So what I'll do is I'll just do 1 set and I'll take it to complete failure, even in the length and range as well. So that's why you'll see those partials at the end. Then I go on to a rear delt row. So what I'm focusing on here is keeping the elbows nice and high, keeping them in line with the rear delts, and I'm focusing on keeping my shoulders fixed. So I don't want any scapular movement because I'm not trying to train any of the scapular musculature. So I'm not trying to train the traps or the rhomboids. I'm trying to train the rear delt. So the scapula needs to stay fixed in a sort of pretty much in a slightly pronated position. So I'm pushing my shoulders forward and I'm just dragging the elbows out with a slight pause, really focusing on the connection with the rear delts, not overly thinking about load because they are such a small muscle. I'm not going to be moving a lot of load. So I'll just do a rest pause set there. Then on to biceps with the back of the arm supported, so the back of the humerus supported on the bicep curl. Generally with biceps and triceps, I will run a movement for a little while, and then it will often get to the point where it stalls a little bit, so I'll either reset it or change it. So I actually changed from a single arm seated dumbbell bicep curl to the single arm machine curl, which I do really like, and it is a little bit stricter because of your humerus being against the pad. Then I do a tricep push down, so I do this as a drop set. So I do 2 sets on the bicep curl, and then I just do a drop set on the tricep push down. I train biceps in every session, and I train triceps on both of the upper sessions and one of the lower sessions. So triceps 3 times a week, biceps 4 times a week. Reason being, triceps will get more activation through the heavy pressing than biceps will in the rowing and the pulling. And then finish off with side delts. So again, like I said, side delts are in every session. I start off with them, then I also do some at the end as well. I just literally do a standing dumbbell lateral raise, take it to failure with partials, and then did actually a couple of drop sets as well. So yeah, generally that was the whole session. It was okay, to be honest. It wasn't the best session I've had. It was actually a better session the week prior, but I think that was because the morning was, we trained early in the morning, so there was less work and less mental fatigue going into it. But nonetheless, still a very good session. Still really enjoying that session, really enjoying being back in the gyms. But yeah, I'll probably leave it there. So that is the upper pull session. I will probably go over the other sessions at some point as well. And I will look at doing some other, probably like a non-training day, full day of eating, because I know that they're quite popular. People seem to enjoy them. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's watched the video. If you have anything that you want to see, or you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, share, all of that jazz, and I will catch you all in the next video.